Next up, an experiment to measure peer pressure.
We open on a classroom on Io, one of Jupiter's moons, obviously a flashback.
Ah, Mr. Rimmer!
A brutal one, naturally since Rimmer is involved.
Hands up, blue.
So this teacher, who is also Rimmer's dad, decided to play a little trick on him to make a point and get on him for being late.
Green.
Basically, he has the rest of the class giving the wrong answer, and even though Rimmer knows they're wrong, he doesn't have the nerve to go against them.
A fallopian tube is a musical instrument. True or false? True?
This girl obviously likes him and tries to help him out. You wonder why no one likes you. Back to present time, there's a security breach on G-Deck.
You kills my brother.
I love this guy. This is Hoagie the Rogey, a rogue droid with a comb-over. For some reason, he thinks that Lister killed his brother, but he doesn't know which crew member is Lister, so he just kind of goes around pointing his gun at everybody until he finds the right one. And they all tell him where to find Lister.
You kills my brother.
This is his first appearance on the show, but everyone seems to know who he is.
A duel across time and space?
No.
Why?
Hoagie, you were always doing this.
Apparently he showed up sometime during the gap between seasons 8 and 9.
But we're all dueled out. Our dueling days are over. Duelos are none.
We are in deep space. Light years from anywhere. There'd be nothing else to do.
Yeah, he's just doing this out of boredom.
How about a ping-pong marathon? Rogue Nutters versus the Dwarfers.
We already do that. You guys, you always win.
He's adorable.
A cooking contest. Who can bake the most delicious cake? We'll thrash you.
Not if it's a shoe pastry you want.
And makes a good shoe pastry.
If I win, a duel across
time and space.
Anyway, he's got a cloth map of the entire galaxy, which he stole from a simulant death ship.
I clever as a hedgehog.
Speak of the devils.
The hole's cracked! There's a ship outside! They're attacking us!
But Hoagie ends up plugging the hole.
Be back. I don't know how. I don't know when.
And loses his gun.
I challenge you to a duel. Oh, what's the point?
He is not having a good day. Meanwhile, the Dwarfers escape into a control room. Notice that Rimmer has an object with him. That's gonna come up later.
Everything's down, sir. We're on EPS. Trying to reboot.
In any case, they don't know what's attacking them yet.
I have a suggestion, sirs.
What?
How about we look out of the window?
Sometimes the old ways are the best ways.
So Crichton does that.
What's out there? A rogue simulant death ship, sir.
Should we be concerned?
It's called a death ship. What do you think?
Simulants. These are the guys who despise humans, right?
I guess it makes sense to explain what simulants are, since before this season we hadn't seen any since Beyond a Joke, 15 years before, and they were probably worried people seeing the show for the first time would be confused. That's probably also why they had Sim Crawford show up in Trojan.
Death ships are captained by special berserker generals who've been crossbred to create an insane biomechanical entity of pure evil.
Okay, that's new. By the way, this scene was one of the ones they had to film later, but they did a rehearsal in front of the audience to get an idea of where they should pause for the laughter.
Those simulants, sir. That's what you want to say.
Robert Llewellyn hadn't learned his lines yet, so he had to read them, so here's Crichton with glasses. It's a surprisingly good look for him.
That is the oddest experience I've ever had already.
We actually get to see inside the death ship, and it's kind of cool in a dark minimalist sort of way. Anyway, of course they failed in killing Lister, so the Chancellor asks for forgiveness and...
Forgiveness is a human quality, Chancellor. It has no meaning to a simulant general. You know what you must do.
Cue this agonizingly drawn-out scene where he uses the sword to commit seppuku with tons of implied gore.
Firstly...
But then it turns out that he only needed to polish that sword.
Secondly... Write me a formal letter of apology.
So you just want me to polish your sword and write a letter?
The scene is so ridiculous.
You do have a tendency to jump to conclusions. Let this be a little lesson to you.
That bit looks important.
I love these two so much. Meanwhile, Hoagie's gun is a molecular destabilizer which lets them go through the floor. It's also how Hoagie got onto Red Dwarf. He attached his ship to the outside and went through the walls. They get to a blue midget, and the object Rimmer still has with him is brought up again. It turns out that it plays hollow messages.
My father gave it to me when I was a boy. He told me to play it the day I become an officer and join the Space Corps. The day I become a somebody.
So never been played, right?
Anyway, they escape on Blue Midget and are chased by 3 Annihilator ships. Lister takes them into an asteroid field so they'll be harder to find, and they end up hiding inside one of the asteroids. Wow, this feels like Season 6 all of a sudden. I am all over that.
This is totally unacceptable.
I agree, my Dominator. The security forces have been shambolic. Those responsible should be agonized.
I agree also.
Back in the Death Ship, the General is tired of everyone kissing up to him.
Question my judgments. Only then will we be truly strong.
Dominator, that simply isn't true. I mean, the last person to contradict you is
Kill him.
What?
And that's why they do it.
Now find the ship!
Oh,
Anyway, the Simulants send probes into the asteroid field to try to find Blue Midget.
Is that it? We're all gonna die?
Well, you're all going to die.
Then Rimmer starts gloating about how he can't die because he died once already.
What's that coming down the corridor? Ooh, it looks like a radiation leak. Why, I'm dead. At least my death was dignified.
I'd hardly call yelling mummy, mummy dignified.
Lister, I didn't yell mummy, mummy.
No, you said gazpacho soup.
No, you didn't have the time. You just yelled m.
Lister points out that they've been in worse situations, and Crichton mentions an interesting one.
Like the time that highly corrosive microorganism almost destroyed Red Dwarf.
We got out of that one.
Yeah, thanks to me.
Oh, sir, you cannot claim the credit for that.
You think that was an accident, the way I...
Like the creators are ever going to tell us what happened at the end of Season 8. Anyway, the Simulants are getting closer, so they have to figure out what to do. Surprisingly, Lister asks Rimmer if he can come up with a plan.
Why me?
Because you're into military strategy. If it was a towel folding competition to the death.
Oh, that would be me.
Settle down there, Criters, it's only hypothetical.
I'd win that one, sir.
And what kind of competition to the death would it have to be before you chose me?
So moving on.
Come on, Lister. Dance competition? Fashion show? Oh well, rule of funny.
Can you do it?
Yes, of course I can do it.
So, Rimmer is obviously feeling the pressure, but he's determined to pull through.
I've waited my whole life for this moment. Command of my own ship in a battle against overwhelming odds? It'll be just like taking an exam.
Yeah, maybe don't treat it like taking an exam. You don't have the best track record with those.
We're smeg.
But nope, that's exactly how he's gonna treat it, down to the timetable chart. It's been ages since I listened to Infinity Welcome's Careful Drivers, but I seem to recall that the reason Rimmer kept failing his astronavigation exams is because he blew most of his time making these elaborate scheduling charts and ended up with no time to actually study. The chart was also mentioned in a Season 1 episode.
Wait, is this the thing in all different colours with all the subjects divided into study periods and rest periods and self-testing time? I threw it away.
You can pause this and read the whole thing if you want, but I'm just going to point out a couple that are especially funny to me. He plans on spending the first hour reading 3 strategy books, one of which is I Did It the Reich Way by Adolf Hitler. 15 minutes into hour 2 is a snack break, and then 30 minutes into hour 4 is another snack break. Don't have the same snack, diversity. There are also different colored pens involved. He plans on spending the last 15 minutes tidying his workspace, and then in the last 5 minutes think of a brilliant plan. I love this bit.
I'm still at the can't think of a plan stage.
Meanwhile, Crichton has taken stock of all of the weapons they have on board, 2 forks and a pencil sharpener.
There is, of course, Hoagie's Molly D.
I love how he calls the molecular destabilizer Molly D. That's cute. Afterwards, Cat, being a cat, comes in and starts bothering Rimmer.
You know why?
Because you're an idiotic cat?
No. Why you can't think of a plan, dummy?
He's got a great moment here where he offhandedly mentions that Rimmer can't think of a plan because he can't get over not having his father's approval. So he needs to figure out how to get that demon out of his head. So Rimmer is going to play the holo message from his father.
If I play it before I've become the person he wanted me to become, it means I don't care what he thinks anymore. I'm free of him.
Well, that's profound. So let's see what's in this message.
Arnold, I'm not your father.
I love this little Star Wars reference. Actually, it's 2 of them combined.
But that's impossible. It's not true.
Look inside yourself and you'll know I speak the truth.
Anyway, it turns out that Rimmer's bio-dad was the gardener who they called Dungo, which is kind of funny because it was hinted at earlier in the series that Rimmer's mom may have slept around, so now we have proof.
No, from now on, your family line isn't made up of Austrian princes and French royalty, but of lame-brained artisans and pram-faced trollops.
Anyway, they didn't tell him because they thought it would be a blow to his self-esteem.
P.S. Naturally, I won't be sending you any more birthday presents.
Yeah, well, you're dead anyway, so fuck off. Rimmer doesn't say a word at first.
Thought he came from a military family, high flyers, success ingrained in the very core of their DNA. Now he discovers he's no better than me. What a nightmare.
But then he returns after a bit with a surprisingly fresh view of his situation.
If Dad, were here now, he'd be so proud. Suddenly I don't have that voice in my head telling me I'm useless at everything.
God, I'm so damn happy for Rimmer right now I could cry.
I can think, and I think I've got a plan.
But they all hate his plan. So they take a vote, which is kind of pointless since there's only 4 of them, but it harkens back to the flashback in the beginning where Rimmer is afraid to go against everyone else.
Is it purple, blue, or green? Cube is a musical instrument.
But determined not to let his dad get back into his head, he digs in and refuses to buckle.
It'll work! Jiu-jitsu style! Use the might of your opponent against himself! We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Apart from pain. And maybe humiliation.
Well, that was almost a good speech.
I know I need to work harder on that fear speech. It wasn't quite as rousing as it should be, but we can do this! Come on! Come on!
I love that they take the forks. So Blue Midget leaves the meteor and the Simulants spot it and surround them. Wow.
Keep them in line. It's absolutely crucial.
Rimmer opens up communications with them.
Under Treaty 5 of the Geneva Convention, we claim the freedoms and privileges of prisoners of war.
Ha! That's cute that he thinks they'll follow the Geneva Convention.
Mutilators loaded, Your Excellency.
You can't open fire on a surrendering ship.
Prepare to fire on my orders.
Right. You're on report, Milado.
This is all to kill time, actually. As in character as all this sounds, Rimmer actually knows what he's doing.
Right, that's it.
It's the way of all things. You live, you die.
But sometimes you live, you die, and then you live again. I know. I've done it myself.
Now!
He has Lister fire the Molly D in all 4 directions so the missiles pass through harmlessly.
Speedo's on a collision course, sire.
Under Treaty 5 of the Geneva Convention, we claim the freedoms and privileges of prisoners of war.
Sorry, I missed that.
I love this scene so much. Oh my god, Rimmer! And the Simulants end up destroying all their own ships. And it is amazing. And now Rimmer and Lister have more in common than they thought.
You know what this makes me? A working-class hero.
Working-class hero, you and me both.
Crichton, set a course for Red Dwarf. The slime's coming home.
Hang on, there's a post-credit sequence.
Once again, Big Arm saves the day.
Sir, can we sort this out once and for all? Just because you happen to...
Yuki's my brother.
Oh yeah, Hoagie was still on the ship. And so ends the beginning. I love this episode, and I thought it put a nice cap on Season 10. Hoagie the Rogey was actually a holdover from the unmade Red Dwarf movie, and was played by the same guy who played the creator in Back to Earth. The Simulants in this one are similar to a type that was to be in the movie, and they're more humanoid looking than previous ones we've seen. Their uniforms remind me of Civil War soldiers, though apparently they were inspired by Dune. I love these guys, and they get a lot of screen time. I was really hoping they'd turn up again somehow, but it's 2 seasons later at the time I'm recording this, and I guess they're gone for good. No sign of Hoagie the Rogey since this one either. Season 10 was definitely the season of Rimmer. First we met his brother Howard in Trojan, and then in Lemons we learned the real reason why his middle name is Judas, and more about his family's history. And now not only does he learn that his father isn't who he thought he was, he actually gets over that and comes out stronger and more confident for it. Remember how in Better Than Life, the game was ruined because Rimmer got obsessed with how he never met his dad's approval, and it had a domino effect? That never really got resolved. It's been like a parasite that's been gnawing at the back of his brain for years, and he conquered it because he realized how little this guy's opinion actually meant. Oh, and also he gets 4 simulant ships to destroy each other and even manages to be smug about it. We also got to see Rimmer as a teenager, so that was interesting. This kid was great, by the way. Not that I hate seasons 11 and 12 or anything, but in a way I kind of wish they had ended the series after this episode. Personally, I wouldn't want a series finale to wrap up everything neatly, have them return to Earth, etc. I would prefer one that leaves things open so we can imagine if the crew made it back to Earth or not, as long as it ended on a positive note. I think having Rimmer take this level and badass would have been a great way to end things. Not to mention how it comes full circle with Rimmer repeating Lister's final line from the pilot episode, which was called The End, and this episode being called The Beginning. I just think that would have been perfect. Also, Season 10 was pretty solid overall and made a lot of callbacks to earlier episodes, so it really would have ended the series on a high note. Also, as much as I loved Season 10 for its comedy, I like that we got some action here. Like I said, it feels like a Season 6 episode, with the Dwarfers showing that when push comes to shove, they can do pretty well for themselves. Speaking of which, the spaceships all looked great. I could have sworn it was CG, but nope, they're models. Seriously, I love Season 10, and again, like with Season 6, I'm a little sad that I'm done talking about it. Regarding the issue about what I think happened to Rimmer between Seasons 8 and 9, I meant to make a video about that sooner, but time kinda got away from me, and it just makes more sense for it to be its own video, however short a video that might end up being, so if that's not done when this video goes up, it should be soon. Speaking of which, I've decided to take a little break before getting to Seasons 11 and 12. Basically, since those are so new, I've only seen each of those episodes once and I don't even remember them too well, so I want to give them another watch on my own time to give them a second chance before making videos about them. I don't know how long of a break it'll be, but I promise this one is temporary. It's not like with My Little Pony where I stopped making them indefinitely. Whenever I do get back to these, next up will be Twentica. See you then.
Map, the likes of which you have never seen.
Don't be so quick to say everything's the likes of which we haven't seen. We've seen things the likes of which you probably haven't seen yourself.
Is that a challenge?